Dawn, we're taking a look at the state of the nation on this Wednesday, the 5th of June. In studio with us for this conversation is Communications and Public Affairs expert Vivian Ta, Leadership and Governance expert Dr. Isaac Hassan, and on phone we have Mathioya Member of Parliament Dr. Edwin Mugo. Dr. Hassan, let me get your thoughts on the comments there by the Mathioya Member of Parliament when it comes to accountability. And when you hear parliamentarians saying, the government needs to do this, the government has not done this, and, Kenyans expected that these people are the government, are representing them within the government. What does it say to you?
I think Mheshimiwa has echoed out his point. But one thing that is evident is that our parliamentarians have lost direction. When you are a parliamentarian, you have no business with the government. You do an oversight role, and your oversight role supersedes the interest of the government. And therefore, at any one point, we expect you to be on the side of your electorate so that the government delivers. And that's why we call an oversight role that parliamentarians have been tasked with. But when a member of parliament talks about the government, we as the government, that is not the role of a parliamentarian. I don't know where they got that quote from. When you say we as the parliament, what happens to those people who don't belong to your political party? So they still speak through their vehicle that has taken them there. As much as there is political loyalty that members of parliament are supposed to subdue to, unfortunately, the way they are doing it is not right. For example, you have asked a very critical question. We see a lot of wastages in all government expenditures, and including the counties. You see, the Auditor General, from the time that office was established, has been reporting audit queries all through, and all those audit queries have been coming to Parliament as part of their role in the oversight. As the oversight role. But you will find this is discussed and shelved. I like to know whether our Member of Parliament has ever concluded a case that has been submitted to Parliament by the Auditor General.
Right. And
we want to know if there is a single case that has been resolved. Corruption will never end if we don't want to take any step. For example, now we have used 18 point something plus expenditure on transport or travels. And on the other hand, he's talking about bending bills. Why don't we pay the bending bills? And yet we are spending a lot of money on travels. Right. Where is it that we are traveling? Recently, I'm shocked. In my county, Mandera County, we have found 7.5 million spent in Kuala Lumpur by 7 members of county assemblies for benchmarking. What on earth are we trying to say that we are going to benchmark to spend all that amount of money, and yet there's nothing to benchmark on? We have basic issues that needs to be addressed within the counties. We have basic issues that needs to be addressed within our country and within our government. We are going to benchmark on purpose to do what? We go to Rwanda, you will find Rwanda has systems in place. The moment you put systems in place, things work without your effort, and you only need to watch and oversee. Right. And that's why I'm saying our members of parliament have failed us in terms of representation, they have failed us in terms of oversight, and of course, above all, even legislation. Because when they are approving bills that will going to hurt their electorate, then it means that they don't care about the people who have taken them there.
All right.
And on that note, I think our Member of Parliament, I will just want him to answer one thing. Let him tell us if there is a specific audit queries from Auditor General, one that has ever been resolved, right, other than keeping
and that was my next question to Honorable Mugo, the Mathioya Member of Parliament. Mheshimiwa, you sit in this Public Accounts Committee, which is responsible for the examinations of accounts showing the appropriations of the sum voted by the House to be allocated to various ministries, divisions, public sector organizations, basically. What has come out of the numerous reports by the Auditor General, the Controller of Budget? We have one on the headlines today. And why is it that we see questions raised, especially of financial impropriety, even within the executive, that we do not see addressed within the Public Accounts Committee?
Well, Michelle, thank you very much. You know, a parliamentary committee is quasi-judicial. Normally what we do, we cannot prosecute, but we make recommendations because obviously there is a segregation of duties. In fact, we have referred so many cases to ethics and to the EACC, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. We have even referred cases to DCI. We have even referred cases to DPP, and I can tell you they are silently working on it because we normally get progress reports. And similarly, the Auditor General cannot prosecute, can only recommend. Then for us, PAC, we normally add the weight. We normally check or we normally evaluate what the Auditor General has queried. And I can tell you, in most cases, we agree with the Auditor General. Because these are there are blatant cases, of corruption, wastage of resources. But once again, I want to be very clear, as the governance expert says, there is creation of duties. Once we refer cases to EACC, it is up to the EACC to do their job, DPP to do their job, judiciary to do their job, because we do not have prosecutorial issues. Again, as Parliament, for us we appropriate money. And I can tell you we have given EACC enough funds. We have given them enough funds as Parliament through legislation. Judiciary has funds. So it is up to every organ in this country to work efficiently so that we can be able to slay this dragon of corruption. So I want to assure the governance expert, even as of today, even tomorrow, we're going to hear a report. A report in Kisumu. We'll be recommending so many cases to EACC. We will be requesting for special audit. If we realize maybe if the issue is not clear, we normally go back to the Auditor General. Why don't you do a forensic audit or a special audit or even a value-based audit on some of these issues? These are some of the reasons we are doing. And I can tell you, the Auditor General, Nancy Gabugu, she's doing her job. She's excellent.
So here's the thing then, Mheshimiwa. We've not seen accountability, like you say. EACC and other institutions have not done their job, and EACC comes and says the judiciary has not done their job. The thing is, Kenyans then have not received accountability for the financial misappropriation of funds in the previous finance bill. Here we are discussing the finance bill for the next financial year. Is it no wonder then that Kenyans are skeptical of paying more taxes when we really do not have accountability for money already lost? Would you, as a member of parliament and member of the Public Accounts Committee, then support more taxation for Kenyans when we have a huge loophole of corruption that could save the country from overtaxing its citizenry? All right. Honorable Mugo, are you still with us? All right, I don't know if Honorable Mugo has, something else to do, or maybe I just didn't want to answer that question. But Vivian, I'd like to move on to something else, because a report by the Controller of Budget that we speak about shows that counties failed to make use of billions for development, and the absorption rate for development stood at 22% of the money that counties have already received, not even their total budget that they should have received. And so when we're overtaxing, increasing taxation, we're being told we're paying debt, but there's little development to show for it. There's no vaccines in hospitals, there's no drugs in hospitals. What conversation should Kenyans be in the wake of, because this is the finance bill but public participation, so what conversation should we be having now in the wake of these reports?
I think the conversation we should be having now is, yes, we need to raise money to pay, to keep government running and pay our bills as a nation and all that, but not at the expense of critical social issues like healthcare. In a case where we are seeing that the vaccine budget was slashed by more than half, from 2.6 billion to 1.2 billion, and yet for a critical vaccine given at birth, like the BCG, Kenya has not procured for about 8 months. Where are our priorities? Are we a nation that wants our children to die? And yet, this is this year, 2024. And yet last year, in 2023, we raised taxes, again, through another finance bill that was passed into law and became Finance Act. So these additional monies we are collecting, where is it going? Is the focus just on paying debt and on affording lavish lifestyles to political elite? Or is it really to serve Kenyans? Because clearly we are seeing from news stories every day. Now, just today, university funding has an issue. Last week, there was issues of capitation and going to schools reduced. Today, issues of vaccine. These are critical, you know. We've not even expanded like into the entire economy, but we're just speaking on two key things, education and healthcare. Budgets are slashed. There is impropriety in these sections. Government doesn't pay suppliers. So the money they're collecting, what do they do with it? Why do they want to tax us more? If even what they're collecting, they cannot account for it, and they cannot tell us exactly what it is doing and how it can change the lives of Kenyans. Right. Because Kenyans deserve vaccines. Kenyan children deserve vaccines. Are we going to have children who are supposed to be vaccinated at birth not vaccinated because of incompetence in our government? And that's also like another red card to this CS for health, because it seems like every time there are issues that touch on healthcare, and from reports it seems like she just, you know, dismisses them and never really handles these issues appropriately. I'm very, very disappointed in this government. In fact, I think we should, if there was a way we could just put a stop to everything until we sort out our austerity, until we sort out our corruption loopholes, really nobody should ask us for more money.
All right. Dr. Hassan, I know you're especially passionate about the health sector. As it stands, we have a crisis as public hospitals face a severe shortage of essential drugs and vaccines. Critically ill patients in some places have no access to life-saving treatment. And experts have warned that even the vaccine shortage itself could pose a serious health risk for the country in years to come. And we saw this during the COVID period as well. Why are we here lacking something as essential as medicines, when just yesterday we had the entire healthcare sector on its knees because doctors were on strike? These perennial issues in the health sector seem to be cropping up.
Michelle, I think there's a problem with our health sector, and we need to sit down and reflect on it and find a solution, a permanent solution. Why? I don't understand how we have lost the grip of our health system plans, because it is important to note that health matters are so planned in advance to the extent that essential services as well as essential drugs, vaccines, and all other related medical supplies are stocked in a manner or that you must have a 1 year or 6 months minimum and a 1 year buffer stock. Meaning, if you know your stock will end this year, you have 6 months or 1 year to use your buffer stock so that you are able to gather all those vaccines into the country. And because we don't produce vaccines here, vaccines are produced outside this nation, and the productions are based on queue, where each country will put their demand and then pay for it, and supplies comes. And it does not come like you go into a pharmacy and pick a drug and walk away. No, it takes a process for a nation to have their vaccines in place or pre-positioned. And therefore, I don't know where we have gone wrong in terms of the planning for our health system, in the country. I don't understand why we are always losing to the extent that now we are getting to a position where we cannot reverse. The point is that, you remember, as you mentioned, there was doctors' strike, which was not managed well. And for 3 months, doctors going on strike, Kenyans losing their life, public hospitals are not utilized. In itself, was a crisis. Now we are hearing, last time there was malaria issue. We have heard of antiretroviral drugs. Now we are hearing vaccines out of stock. It's unfortunate that things are not going very well. And if it is the management or the leadership of that ministry, then the government needs to do an overhaul.
All right.
I know there are quite a number of well-experienced doctors who have managed those ministries for a long time. We don't hear them. We don't hear them these days. Where is Dr. Amoth, the Director General? We don't hear him. So there must be something that has made him silent, because that is the passion he had in ensuring that Kenyans remain healthy.
Okay.
But is it that something has stopped him not to champion his passion? I think there is a problem.
I want to bring in Honorable Mugo once again. Honorable Mugo, are you still with us?
Yes.
All right, and so the concern has been that the government may not be very in touch with the concerns and issues that Kenyans are raising. On one hand, we'll have headlines that say there's delayed capitation to schools, and we'll have government officials come on national TV and say capitation has been disbursed, but schools have not received it. And so when we talk about a shortage of vaccines and drugs, well, the Health Cabinet Secretary, Susan Akumicha, say that the problem has been taken care of, that hospitals now have drugs and the shortage has been resolved. Talk to us about Mathioya constituency. Do your hospitals have drugs and vaccines? Because a spot check, even after that statement by the Cabinet Secretary, in hospitals, even in Nairobi here in Kibera, showed that mothers are lacking important medicine, including medicine that will assist in preventing HIV transmission from mother to child. Are your hospitals fully stocked in Mathioya?
Yeah, I think, Michelle, I want to agree with the governance experts, because I mean, health is a big issue, and it is something as a country we need to sit down and reflect and rethink on how we can manage our health systems. You know, partly part of the health is devolved. I think from level 4 hospital downwards, they are run by the county government. Then, of course, the referral hospitals are run by the national government. I think we need to decide as a country, do we really need to devolve health? Or do we need, or does it need to be run maybe in one basket? Just like the teacher, do we need a health, maybe a health commission or something of the sort? Just like we have a teacher service commission, because when the doctors were striking, you could hear, like in Murang'a, the doctors were working, but in Nairobi they were not working because, this governor did this, this governor did this. I think we, as a country, we need to sit down and decide on how to run our health. I want to confirm, in my constituency, we have county line dispensaries, health centers, and a level 4 hospital, which are functioning quite well. But I also want to confirm, Michelle, one of the biggest issues we have as members of parliament is sorting the issues of health. Every single day there is a hospital bill being sent to you. Somebody has been detained by the hospital, and so forth. So we are hoping, and because we have legislated here in Parliament about this social health authority, the social health insurance fund that is starting, that it will be a game changer, and it is going to work perfectly well.
All right, and I want us to begin winding up. But Vivian, look at that. When a member of parliament has to start paying hospital bills for their constituents, when they have to seek him out, individually to pay hospital bills for a government that is trying to implement universal health coverage. And we've seen officials from the Ministry of Health saying the implementation of UHC is well on course. Is it, in your view?
I think don't believe anything the government says. The government says anything to look good. Not just by my word, but it's on record. A lot of government officials say things that are not, in reality, when you go to the ground, it's different. Like just now, reports about the vaccines, the CS is saying it has been resolved. But when you go to public hospitals, the situation is different. So basically, we have an untrustworthy government. The things they say, it's like they release statements just for the sake of releasing statements. So I'm not shocked that, you know, a government official would say UHC is on course, and yet a member of parliament of Madeira still has to pay hospital bills for, you know, his constituents, which I think is also not a sustainable way of taking care of the issue. I would much rather maybe the constituents get, you know, enrolled into NHIF or whatever the new SHIF, I think the new one, so that the sustainability in how they can get healthcare. But the thing is, Michelle, even if you enrolled into this healthcare insurance program, if the hospital has no doctors, drugs, what are people going to do in hospital? I mean, what's the point of going to the hospital if you will not get service and treatment? You know, it's one thing to say we are funding a universal healthcare program. It's another thing to ensure it is effective. So I think it should be a two-pronged approach. Make sure citizens are enrolled and registered, yes, on the program. But when they go to healthcare facilities, ensure that there are drugs, there are service providers, and citizens can get service. Because then it's pointless to tell someone, we've enrolled you on the universal healthcare program, then you get to a hospital and you don't have vaccines, you don't have drugs, you don't have anything, and you still have to go to a private hospital to seek, you know, medical attention. There needs to be an overhaul in how we do governance. I don't know how or where we will do it, but I think we can learn some lessons from Rwanda. We can pick some lessons from Ethiopia. We can pick some lessons from Asian tigers, because how we are doing it, if we continue on this path, it's downhill. All right, Dr. Hassan, very briefly as we wind up, your thoughts on this, even, you know, as it stands, you know, even the government and parliamentarians are still debating whether we should even be devolving this thing, this function in the first place.
I think Mheshimiwa has pointed out a very critical thing. A failure. He has said we have failed in that. What next? Again, we will just tell him that if there is any failure, then the solution is with them. Why? Devolved services are devolved by the laws of this land. And how to retrieve them, the fact that they have failed to work, then it still lies with the parliamentarians. They are the ones to go and engage the public to make sure that they collect the public opinions in terms of how best they will love the health services to be managed. Once that comes out from the public, it is them to go and debate it in parliament and give us a decision on whether we will need health commission. Because we talked about this, you did wrong in devolving this, but it's a cash cow for the county governors, and no one want to release health services out of their docket because they think that resources will going to shrink down. But when you look at the resources demand or appreciation versus service provision, then it looks like we have no interest in providing proper healthcare services within the counties, but we are interested in getting resources down there to be mismanaged. Another critical thing that we must point out is that quite a number of resources are kept at the national level. Do we need to have a lot of money in Afi House? I don't think if it is necessary. And I tend to think if we are not going to if we are not going the way of having a commission to run the ministry, then I think we need to also channel resources that are being held at the national level to those counties, so that we see whether their complaints, which they often say that resources are not sufficient for them to run the health services within the counties, are true. And to prove that, then we must first provide the necessary gaps, resources that they need, so that we are able to say, yes, we have given you all this, but still status quo remains. On that note, then, we have all the reason to withdraw those services from the counties and put them in in a commission that will going to oversee the health services in the country.
Right, and then many health professionals are pushing for this health service commission. But let's give the final comment very briefly to Honorable Mugo, who is the Mathare Member of Parliament. Mheshimiwa, I'd like to wind up with you on the issue of capitation delays. As it stands, there are schools that are mulling not reopening after the midterm break because of a cash crunch. What is the situation in your constituency, and what has this meant when it comes to bursary allocations as well?
Well, Michelle, number one, I would want to say that we as members of parliament, we have appropriated almost 700 billion shillings on the education sector. And once we appropriate the funds, now the management of the funds squarely rests with the executive. That is the State Department of Basic Education, TVET, and so forth. So the biggest budget, or the biggest chunk of our country's budget has gone to education, because education is the key to this country. Now, regarding the capitation, it is a big issue. It's not only in my constituency. I think it is across board. It's across the country. And it is something that the Committee for Education has raised. They have even called the minister. You have seen the minister promising that they're going to release the money, the PS, and all these things. But in fact, in Public Accounts Committee, we have requested for a special audit on all the capitation funds. And when actually we have requested for a forensic audit, because we would also want to see the trade of money, the movement of money from Treasury to the State Department of Basic Education, and even now the movement of those funds from the basic education, the sub-county director of education, and even to the schools. Because when I go to my constituency, all the principals are coming to me. Yes. We are supposed to receive 22,000. It's almost we have done 70% of the term or the syllabus, and we have received less than half of the 22,000. So it is a big issue, which the Committee of Education is following up. As Parliament, we are following up. I even asked a question to the CS Mashogu last year, because when I asked, then they made sure that before he came to Parliament, they released 98%.
All right, Mheshimiwa.
Of the capitation for Mathare constituency. But this is not something that I would want it to happen only in my constituency. It is an issue that needs to be addressed. And as Parliament, we are even married to, considering other drastic measures to ensure that these capitation funds are released and our kids stay in school. Okay,
many thanks, Mheshimiwa. Many thanks for your time. That is Dr. Edward Mugo, who is the Mathare Member of Parliament, in studio with us as well. We have Dr. Isaac Hassan, who is a leadership and governance expert, as well as communications and public affairs expert, Vivian Ta. A lot more to be discussed, especially with regard to the education sector. Where does 6,000 shillings, or that 22,000 of capitation, go when schools only receive about 17,000? A conversation we'll have in a lot more detail on another edition of New Dawn. Many thanks for watching today. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Good morning.